Hey guys, my name is VaulSC. Hope that you are doing well. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at a game of Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings, between Dweghom and Nords. This will be at a 1500 points level for this one. Special thing about this game is that I've finally got around to assembling and painting the majority of my Dweghom collection. Not quite at 2000 points yet. I just have pretty much 3 or 4 stands and a character left to go. They are essentially my second faction. The reason I started them is that we had a buddy of ours start the hobby and then quit after assembling like 1,000 points worth of stuff, so I just got them off him for cheap and I decided to expand it to a bit of a bigger army. But I really like Dweghom. They're a faction that seem a little bit underrepresented in my local meta. They used to be very popular because they were the most powerful faction by far. A lot of people gravitated towards that. But in terms of the sculpt and the theme of the army, they are a little bit less popular than others based on the aesthetics of it. I do think that they are a very poorly designed army mechanically in the sense that, you know, the army list building is really driven towards one particular style, which involves the Tempered Sorcerer all the time, and the internal balance of the faction isn't great. A lot of the magic items you can get are, you know, duds, and you sort of gravitate to just the same ones every time. There's a lot of room for improvement, but I believe Parabellum can do better, and I'm just keen to have them as a secondary faction anyway, just so I can take a bit of a alternate from 100 Kingdoms and show you guys a bit more material and get a few more matchups onto YouTube. And honestly, I've just been having a blast painting them. I've gone for a very metallic heavy style on them, and as you'll see in the bat rep, they are very shiny, a lot of specular intensity there. I bought this box set of paints from Scale 75, which had like 8 different metallics in it, and I've just been trying to make the most of those and have been really happy with it. My opponent also, you know, not really at the full 2000 points level yet. I did have a bat rep against him recently with Nords. We talked about that game afterwards, and really he just spent too many points on characters because he didn't have enough regiments to make the full 2000, so it's more sensible that we play together at 1500 and we'll graduate to 2000 points very, very soon. So let's jump into this game, shall we? We have the mission, which is melee. Really like this one. It's a good balance between killing a lot of stuff compared to scoring objectives. And what's really great about it is that on the one hand, it favors armies that have a lot of regiments and a lot of scoring regiments because you need to spread out and capture 6 different zones. But people who are overdoing it and taking too many regiments can get punished because you get a victory point, or 2 victory points, I should say, for every regiment character and warlord. So if you spam nothing but, I don't know, men-at-arms, your opponent might not even need to camp that many zones. They just pick off all of your regiments and they score a massive number of points. But any normal army list has to make some serious decisions about which zones to go after. There are the big ones on the right-hand, left-hand side. They yield the most points, but then you risk splitting up your army too much. Your opponent might be able to pick off the weaker areas of the battlefield, which makes, you know, the board relevant and space important. So I love this mission. I think it's really cool. Looking at what I'm fielding today, so my collection of Dweghom includes these regiments here. What I initially did is I just took the Sorcerer's Warband and the Tempered Steel Shaper's Warband. I thought, right, I'll make 1500 points worth of that. And I realized that without the reg and the initiates there, I would have had to spend 245 points on upgrades for units and character items, which is just too much. So I realized that since these guys are you know, well painted, I could just throw them on the battlefield and really skimp on upgrades altogether. So the Sorcerer's got Arcane 1 and Focused, and the Reg has got Tactical 1. No other items other than that. And that's just really there to make sure that I make the most of my miniatures. It's not really a competitive list. Normally I'd like to, at this point level, drop maybe 1 regiment and buff up the characters a bit more. But having said that, 1500 points, it's solid, you can play it. When I go up to 2000 points, you'll see that the initiates get built up to 6 stands. They're really meant to be an anvil unit that make the most of locking an enemy unit in place so that the rest of the army can shoot at it. The Reg really needs the Dragobud for Cleave 3 so that when the enemy spends 2 or 3 rounds fighting the initiates, he can actually get some work done in the front row. And then elsewhere, on his warband, the unit of 4 Dragon Slayers, so that's the big heavy hitters. I'm kind of, I must say, I'm kind of trying to future-proof this collection of miniatures for updates, because at the moment, you kind of want to just play the Sorcerer and have multiple Sorcerers and just go all Tempered Creed and not even worry about the Reg, to be honest, because he's not really the best in the meta. You know, it's very serviceable to have Dragon Slayers and Thanes and stuff in there. But I feel like as Dweghom starts to mature a bit and as they get better at balancing the game, I do feel like the reg will get better and better. They'll make his supremacy a bit better, and the casters are likely to be weakened a little bit, if anything. So I kind of want to have my collection built around that sort of setup to have the best of all those worlds. And I do actually have the Ardent stuff. So I've got the Ardent Kerouweg ready to assemble. If we go and look at him, he can have the Flame Berserkers too, which I've got a box of. I just haven't assembled those ones yet, so I may expand into that later. My opponent running just the 2 warbands here, the Shaman, Raiders, Bearsarks, Blooded, and a bunch of infantry here. I can't remember what exact lineup of items he took. I know that he had the Horn of Hjoldgar, which is great for giving the Bowchosen even more damage, and of course Hunt's instinct to advance them 6 and back them up 3 after shooting. The Shaman, I think he had 10 points left, so I don't know whether he put the Arcane 1 into the Shaman or just added it to the Blooded. I'm not sure, but this gives you a rough breakdown of what he's got here. And of course, Bearsarks with a Gothy, as you'd always want to be doing. Let's jump into it. So the game starts with me pulling out my cards. You can see at the top there, I've got the Sorcerer coming in with the Ballistae and the Inferno Automata. So I'm choosing one of them automatically and rolling for the other one. So that's going to be my stack initially. Everything else on the list is mediums. So that's due to come on a little bit later. So my first stack for turn 1 is the Sorceress, because he's not going to be able to do anything. Automata and then Ballistae, just to make sure I can see where my opponent is bringing in his unit before bringing in my Ballistae opposite it. I know the Bowchosen are coming, so I don't really know if I want to get shot at by the Bowchosen straight away with a Ballistae. Although there is an argument for letting the Bowchosen blast you and then marching up and just hitting them with 2 spells and really wrecking them after that. I'm a bit fearful, because what could happen is that the Sorcerer could attack the Bowchosen and not really do much damage to them. Then my opponent wins the roll the next turn and fires another volley at the Ballistae, wiping them out and then losing the Sorcerer. I kind of don't really want that. So, first unit appearing is these wonderful Inferno Automata. I had a blast assembling these guys. The kit allows you to sort of have the arms posed without glue in them, so that you can actually have them flailing around like little ragdoll, action figures, which is amazing. It's going to be very, very cool when I eventually get down to doing some stop motion animations, as you may have seen from my show, Table Game Fun Times, that I did for Infinity. I may be doing something similar with Conquest eventually, and these guys will see a lot of screen time because of their awesomely posable arms. My opponent deploying opposite side of the battlefield, but with the Raiders and the Shaman, did not include the Captain, so they do not have medium, so they'll be a force to contend with, but not for scoring, luckily for me. So I'm putting the character here, the Sorcerer, opposite them. You can see his little retinue with the fish gnome there, and what I'd ultimately like to be able to do is march and then you shoot the spells. I will be up against spell interference with the Shaman, but in the long run there should be enough damage to easily obliterate the Raiders, and that's what we want. We want to build up those cheating tokens, as I like to call them, the Element of Blue-Essence. So then we have the Bowchosen moving through here. I'm going to need to be wary of these guys. They will rip up the Inferno Automata very quickly, but if I can just double charge into close combat and then get a round of combat off against them, that's really going to cripple the Bowchosen and trade a less expensive unit for a more expensive one. But you've got to be careful, because this unit is just absolutely lethal with the horn in there and the 4 stands and everything, so just got to watch it. So next up, turn 2, we're bringing on the Warriors with the Steel Shaper. I am using the Ardent Kerouweg card for the Steel Shaper, because I don't actually have a Steel Shaper. And then the Drake is coming on as well. So in the order of Inferno Automata, Warriors, Steel Shaper, Ballistae, Drake, and then Sorcerer. Using the Kraken model as the Sorcerer card, because I just don't actually have the proper Sorcerer. I'm using the Herald of Fire miniature as my Sorcerer. So turn 1, I'm just bringing in, or turn 2 I should say, but first activation, I managed to bring in the Automata to move up and then charge into the Bowchosen. But this means that I don't do impact hits because I'm running through the trees. And he'll take 6 hits from Aura of Death, but then he'll be able to attack me close combat. Bowchosen are pretty good in close combat, and they've got their cleave from the Blooded, so this will probably do a couple of stands worth of damage to the Inferno Automata. So I kind of feel like I'm wasting them, but it means that I'm going to shut down 2 turns worth of shooting on the Bowchosen, and if that buys me enough time to creep onto the battlefield with something else that's fast, like the Steel Forge, something like that, then maybe I can avoid a lot of shooting. But I just really wasn't sure about this play. Another way to do it would have just been to use Liquid Formation and run away and just like leave them there and just ignore them for a couple of turns. But something would have had to face them eventually, and I'm just a bit worried that I would have given them too much room. So I just don't know what the right play was. Maybe this was it, maybe not sure. So we have the Hold Warriors appearing here. This miniature right here on the bottom of the screen you can see is the Steel Shaper, but it's not the official Steel Shaper. I went onto Etsy and I purchased a 3D print of somebody else's miniature, not a official miniature from any particular range, but just a randomly 3D printed one. And the scale of this guy is a little bit larger, but that's okay. You could just say he's a character. He's a larger-than-life kind of guy. And I'm just planning on painting up really nicely, and that's going to be my Steel Shaper from now on. So he's positioned in such a way that he can cast a spell onto the Ballistae purely for the purposes of gaining that cheating token, the lovely elemental potency. But I realized later that there's no need to do that. You can just basically cast a spell onto the Hold Warriors for free, because the Steel Shaper's got a special rule that means that anything cast on his own unit or an enemy unit that he's in contact with is an auto pass. So I should have just done like Hone Blades for the +1 clash, even though I'm not going to use it, to start charging up the tokens. And in this particular case, casting it onto the Ballistae, I actually whiffed the roll completely and it didn't even go off. So I kind of cost myself a token here due to being a noob, just being a bit green with this faction. So I've learned something already. My opponent casting a spell of his own, +1 evasion. That's not really going to do anything on his unit, but yeah, didn't have anything else to do. They are actually just hanging out over here, deciding just to pull back a bit and not really do too much, because he knows that if he double marches, or at least I told him, I helped him out here, and I said, look, if you double march onto that objective, you're not scoring because you're light, and the character's light. And if I then double march my Ballistae, I will absolutely nuke you with my mage, my sorcerer. So I just helped him out there. I didn't really want him to throw away his unit. You know, I mean, I personally think it would have been a bad play. Just let me know what you guys think, but I just don't think he should have done that. So I'm marching a bit further forward. I can't score either because the Ballistae and the Sorcerer are both lights as well. But next turn I can potentially move up, shoot the volley of crossbow bolts, and then blast them with some spells. Over here, the Bowchosen are attacking the Inferno guys. They take a bunch of hits. They manage to pass a couple of evasion checks and don't lose a stand here, which was annoying. I kind of wanted to kill one stand, but they then do a bunch of damage. You can see in the top right, the Inferno Automata have been broken, reduced to just one stand, which has taken a wound now. So then I come stomping in with the Hellbringer Sorcerer. Sorry, this is not a Hellbringer Sorcerer. It is just the Gun Dragon without the character on it. And there's a forest there which allows me to position the regiment entirely within the forest. My understanding is that you can shoot out of it without suffering the barrage penalty, but enemy units shooting in at you will suffer the penalty, and also protects them against impact hits. So this is a double march up. I'll be able to barrage next turn. It is range 16 on the main guns, and this guy is overlooking that objective. And if the Bowchosen shoot at the dragon, then I'm not going to automatically lose it because it's a monster. It's got 14 wounds and it's got defense 3. And if you lose a lot of wounds, it doesn't reduce its capability to shoot. And that's the main thing about the Drake here. Just pause a second, sort of lecture a little bit about that particular model. Some people look at the Hellbringer Drake model and they feel like it looks like a massive gun. And it's kind of intimidating when you look at the model and you think, oh my gosh, it's going to obliterate at range. But the stats, if you really read it carefully, most of the time your shooting is going to be roughly the equivalent of 1 unit of 3 stands of mercenary crossbowmen. It's actually very, very average and below average on shooting. The real value of that model is that it can survive shooting. So in a long range shootout between 2 different models, it is actually very good at doing that because you've got defense 3, evasion 2, wounds 14. The other good thing about it compared to other shooting units is its movement 7, so repositioning is very, very strong. It's a scoring unit, so jumping onto a zone is very, very powerful, and it can actually sort of fight its way out of combat sometimes as well, unlike a unit of mercenary crossbowmen. You've got the Clash 2, attacks 8, a little bit of impact hits, things like that. I think it needs a very slight buff, to be honest. I would give it like a Trample 2 or something like that. But overall, it's the kind of piece you take as a support piece, and the last thing that's really amazing about it is that it can actually shoot over enemy units because it's size 2, so you can put it behind your like hold warriors or your initiates, and you can shoot over them, and you can't get attacked in close combat. And that's the real value of the Drake, in my opinion. So it's good for all of those reasons, but shooting, it's not a strong point. It's just like a bit of an all-rounder. My opponent brings on 5 stands of trolls. I did say to him that he should really put a character in them to try and give a defensive buff to them, but he's trying them without the character. They're going through the center, and they're looking for an opponent to smash. I'm very worried that they will move past these 2 bits of impassable terrain and attack the sorcerer. I really don't want to lose the sorcerer against the trolls, so I'm going to be thinking of backing up here. But he started to paint them. The paint scheme is already looking great. 1 stand complete. Can't wait to see the rest of the unit in that color scheme. So end of turn 2, we've got this. The Bowchosen are having to just contend with the Inferno guy for 1 more round, and the trolls don't really have a combat target right now, and they're going to be camping that smaller objective. I am keeping my opponent away from scoring on the big 3-point zones. But yeah, just worried about the raiders coming through and attacking the sorcerer, and the hold warriors just moving a bit more slowly. They should really just be gapping it towards that objective on the left as fast as possible, because my opponent's really just deployed a light unit there, and that's it. So coming into turn 3 now, I'm bringing in most of the rest of the army here. We're going to be starting with the ballistae, just because I want to double march backwards. I don't want the trolls to march charge and then tie me up in close combat. That would be very bad. And then if I'm lucky enough, the Inferno Automata will attack next, but it'll probably be dead by that point. I'm just sort of pushing my luck. The Sorcerer is going last because I want him to be able to shoot spells at anything that comes within range, such as the trolls. Everything else going on in between. So first up, Raiders just hanging out here, staying out of the way of the Ballistae. I then move the Ballistae back so that they're not going to get flank charged by the trolls randomly through the middle of the game. Then his Bowchosen attack the Inferno Automata and wipe it out. So unfortunately for me, losing that model there. The Hold Warriors now moving up, just again going kind of slowly, trying to cast a spell, getting a free token, cheating token. The Raiders now move up, and again, they just don't have any scoring potential or anything, but they might be able to advance the reinforcement line by doing this, and I should then be able to start shooting them and scoring, shooting them and spelling them. The Reg appearing now. I don't really want the Reg fighting the trolls. I think that won't really go badly for me. I'm already sort of ahead on the left-hand flank, and with the Inferno Automata destroyed, I kind of feel like I need to make a bit of a bid for the right-hand side here, and just give that Hellbringer Drake a bit of support. I also like going after the Bowchosen with these guys because they are defense 4. Unfortunately, any rolls of a 1 from the Bowchosen will cause automatic wounds, but I did take out 1 stand because what happened there is that the Aura of Death 2 from 3 stands of Automata did like 4 wounds, and they've got 5 wounds each or something like that, and then the 2 more automatic hits from the Aura of Death from that 1 remaining stand this turn did a further wound and actually stripped 1 stand down, so that's something. Over here, we have the Ogres coming on behind the Raiders. Now, they're a little bit more of a problem because they can score and they can do a lot of damage against my Hold Warriors because they've got a lot of cleave. The Kerouac card, again, this is the Steel Shaper that we're talking about here. It's just a proxy card. Casting the spell, putting down the token. The Trolls, inexplicably, deciding to stay put, and they're just waiting. And my opponent's sort of thinking about waiting to see more of my units arrive in the battlefield before marching to the left or to the right and just holding camp here. I wouldn't have made that play myself. I think he should have double marched forwards and just tried to put more pressure on me. He can sort of threaten to charge my initiates and then just go after the Hellbringer Drake with the Bowchosen later on. The Trolls will easily wipe out the initiates. They will regenerate after that, and I will have a lot of problems with them. I suppose, to his credit, I mean, he is preventing a situation where he goes after the initiates, and then I have like some Steel Forged arrive in the battlefield, and he gets boxed in. But you know, I think that moving forward would give him more options rather than less. Over here, the Fireforged appear on the battlefield, and they're just appearing behind the Hold Warriors. What they want to do is wait for something to engage the Hold Warriors. The Hold Warriors should last at least 1 round. The Fireforged then shoot in close combat, preferably at close range. And with the help of the Sorcerer on the other side, I should be able to steamroll this left-hand flank and then start scoring for the remainder of the game with one of these medium units. and rack up a lot of points, and that way I can then control the center of the battlefield and hopefully clear him out with the sorcerer spells late game. The Giant, again, using Vanguard because the Shaman is Warlord and he can give any of his regiments Vanguard, well, up to 2 regiments per turn. So he's marching around here so that he just clips that objective. So he'll start scoring a lot of points now, 3 points per circular zone on the right and the left. And it also makes it dangerous for me because if I move any units closer to take the zone, he can countercharge me with this big Giant. And the Giant is supported by the Bowchosen, so things started to get quite difficult here for the Dweghom. So answering that threat, I've decided to rush up here with the Steelforged. The Steelforged should be able to do a lot of work. Unfortunately, they kind of reliant on Defense 4 and their Resolve, and the Giant unfortunately does Terrifying. He's got Cleave 2, Impact hits and all that sort of stuff, so the Giant could be a bit of a problem. But I do need to bring something in here, and so far I've got the Initiates, I've got the Gundragon, and I've got the Steelforged, and hopefully that will put in a bit of a bid to contend with this side of the battlefield. Otherwise it's going to be a matter of me winning on the left, him winning on the right, and then it coming down to the center of the table in the late game. So my opponent does want to crush this part of the battlefield. He's bringing in the Bearsarks right in here behind the Bowchosen. And they are going to be a problem because they have Linebreaker and Cleave 2. They'll absolutely trash the Initiates. They can easily kill the Gundragon if they get into close combat with it. They've got Blessed against, anything charging it. They can even wipe out the Steelforge pretty easily. So this is going to be a tough flank to win. Over here, we have the Gundragon deciding to shoot at the Mountain Giant, the Jotnar, because it's already in range. It turns out that the Bowchosen weren't quite in range at the end of all of that moving around, and the armor piercing will be quite good against the Mountain Giant. So what happens here is I unleash a barrage against him and do a bunch of wounds to him, and that will soften him up later for any potential charge in there from the Steelforged. So, moving on to turn 4, we're going to activate the Hellbringer Drake first to get another volley off on him. Then I'm going to put in some spells there with the the Steel Shaper, and I'll waste a bit of time in the mid-game with the Rag and the Initiates, and then later in the game, hopefully he's moved in with his Giant so I can countercharge with the Steelforge right at the end. And of course the Mage activating later in the turn because I want to see if he moves towards me into my threat range and then hit him with the spells and the shooting for the Ballistate. So this is what the battlefield looks like, by the way. Turn 4. Left-hand flank, you've got Steelforged, Dragon, and Initiates versus Giant, Bearsarks, and Bowchosen. I believe that Nords have the advantage on that flank. In the middle, the Trolls aren't really threatening anything. They are just standing put. And again, I feel like that was a bit of a misplay because if he had moved them forward already, he could actually start threatening either of the two flanks. He could reform them and march them into the right-hand side, and I don't have a lot that could contend that. Or go after the left-hand side and absolutely dominate that side of the battlefield. So I felt like he's just wasted a bit of momentum with the Trolls there. But again, he wanted to be able to see exactly the sort of setup, like which unit's going where before he commits. Right, so Bowchosen. In this photo, you can see a picture of the Blooded moving forward 3 inches and the rest of the unit staying where it is. He's doing this just to measure out where they can move to potentially with 3-inch march. That's half the march, and then pull back at half speed using the Fire in Advance special rule. This means that they can get into range of the Gundragon and then pull back to where they are, staying out of its range. And even though they're shooting into the forest, at burst 5 each, it's done per stand, so it's halved down to 3 shots each. So that's 9 shots then, the Blooded shots as well. The dice for this were absolutely catastrophic for the Gundragon. Like, they absolutely blitzed them. They rolled plenty of 1s, so those are automatic wounds, and then they count as additional hits because of the Horn of Holdmar or whatever it is. The Blooded gets a bunch of hits, and the Hellbringer Drake saves just about fails all about all the saves, and it takes like something like 10 wounds or something ridiculous immediately, and another volley will kill it basically. So I was just really disappointed with that dice outcome, but it is what it is. Over here, we've got the Shaman casting some spells, and the Raiders just hanging out. The Mountain Yacht now, my opponent taking the bait here, really. I deliberately moved my Steelforged into such a position where I would give him the opportunity to charge and clash if he rolls a 6 on the charge only. So I'm sort of tempting him to go for the high value play, but I really feel like it's a mistake to risk that, because you waste an entire round from the Mountain Jotnar, and then the Steelforge can charge and clash and just kill you because you got, you know, +2 clash from Flux Powered. So you got 6 impact hits on Clash 5, and then you've got another 12 normal attacks on Clash 5, Cleave 1. That's extremely bad for the Giant. So setting this up, I think, is the wrong move. What you want to do is move back out of range with the Mountain Jotnar in this position, or just do the March Charge. He was looking at potentially going after against the Gundragon, but it's in the forest, so he would have had to charge through the forest. He would lose his impact hits and then do no damage to it whatsoever, and then I could just charge him in the flank with the Steelforge. So given that I'd deterred that play, he went for the Steelforge with the Mountain Giant needing a 6 to impact them, to make it with the first move and then clash them. He failed the roll, and I think with the reroll failed that as well. So he becomes a sitting duck there, but had it been me, I would have considered the options and then would have just retreated with the Mountain Giant, waited for the Berserks to show up, and just lived to fight another day. So over here, you can see the Hellbringer has taken 10 wounds, and the Initiates double march up. They are planning on really just provoking some attacks there, diverting some attention away from the rest of my army, and just hopefully going after the Bow Chosen eventually, but they're not in the best position because they're going to contend with either the Berserks or the Trolls or both. So I'm not loving this flank. On the other side, the Ogres move past the Raiders, and you can see that little widget there on the bottom right of your screen showing where the line of sight facing is for the Hold Warriors. So the Ogres march past initially and then continue moving to eventually move outside of line of sight of the Hold Warriors, so that I can't charge and clash them. That'll put them into a great position to attack me next turn with Cleave 2. So I am reforming, I am charging, but in this situation I will not be able to attack. I do want to get into close combat though, because that allows me to cast my spells. It means that he won't get any impact hits on me, and the Fireforged will be able to shoot over the heads of the Hold Warriors and hit the Ogres, because the Ogres are brutes, they're size 2. The Fireforge will then get at least 2 turns of shooting onto them, and that should be the winner there. If the Hold Warriors can just hold the line, as it were, if I can say that, between the Fireforged and the Tempered Sorcerer, I should be able to clean up this entire flank pretty easily and quickly. Speaking of the Fireforged, they then move up, they unleash a volley. This is only at volley 2 at this point, so they do minimal net damage to the Ogres, but next turn they will aim and will do a ton more damage. Over here, we have the Trolls still hanging out, indecisive, unsure of where to go. They really need to be reforming at this point and going to the left or the right. They can't really afford to stand still. Over here, the Tempered Sorcerer reforming and pushing forward. The reason I'm doing that is they want to be a little bit more mobile and a little bit more agile in case the Trolls come after them, in which case I'll just, you know, wheel around and just run away, or turn to face them and shoot some spells. But at this point, trying to fire some spells at the Raiders, it doesn't go very well at this point because of a spell interference, and I don't have any graph to fire any magic items on the Sorcerer. I've got Focused, and that's it. So unfortunately not getting too many hits in this particular case. There's the Sorcerer there trying to summon up some fire and go after the Shaman, but unfortunately this round not doing terribly much. Managed to pick up a token though. Now, the action. The Steelforged have been given an opportunity to charge the Giant because he had to move forward a little bit as the result of his failed charge. So they are speed 6, and they managed to roll up a successful charge into the Giant. They do impact hits onto him with Clash 5, and then they do the normal Clash onto him and absolutely wreck him. So that is one important piece removed from the Nord army. But they are going to be in front of the Berserks, so that's going to be another problem coming up very shortly. So there they are there, just running in here. And the important thing is that I've now put a bunch of medium stands onto this objective. Hopefully that will either net me some points or at least contest the zone so that he won't be able to score them. Very, very happy with the paint job, by the way. Love those metallics. I've got like a very dull metallic purple under there, and then metallic green highlight with the bronze, and of course a whole bunch of washes. And I just love the way that those paint look together. They're designed to be used in combination, and they just look great. So, next turn, Steelforged have to go first because there are some Berserks right next to them. And if I can win the roll, that is going to be huge because the Steelforged can charge into the Berserks and get the initiative there and hopefully get some damage done with impact hits and clash, and that will relieve a lot of pressure from the initiates. Then it's going to be the Gun Dragon. It's only got a few moments to live, so I'm just hoping that the Bow Chosen don't shoot at it. And then it's going to be a matter of everything else activating, with the initiates going last, because I'm thinking he's probably going to move in with either the boat, well, not the Bow Chosen, but possibly the Trolls. So I have to sort of see where he goes first before charging. Right, so this is probably the most crucial play of the game. My opponent looks at the Berserks, wins the roll, goes first, and he has an opportunity to charge the Steelforged with his Berserks. That would mean that I'm saving on 2s, and he has Blessed. He would probably wipe out the majority, if not the totality, of the Steelforged there, and I'd still have to deal with his Berserks in the long run. What he decides to do instead is he passes the Bloodlust check, so he doesn't have to charge the closest target, and he charges past them and goes on a different angle into the initiates instead. And this is a little bit of a greedy play because he wants to make use of Line Breaker as well as Cleave too, so it drops my defense down to 1s. And the resolve is 4 thanks to the Rag, but all he's got to do is crush through 15 wounds and he will wipe me out. So, given that the Berserks have approximately that many attacks, and they're clashing on 4s with rerolls, and I'm only saving on 1s, and then even if he does like 11, 12 wounds worth of damage, I only have to fail 3 or 4 resolve checks, and I'm wiped. So that was the motive there. He wanted to completely remove these 2 units, get all the points for them. The Bow Chosen can then finish off the Hellbringer Drake, and that would leave me with only the Steelforged on this flank. The Steelforged can maybe go after the Bow Chosen, and then he's got his Trolls and his Berserks there to just completely obliterate me and start scoring freely on 2 different zones. But what ended up happening is that when all of the hits went through, I rolled several 1s, passing my armor save, and then I passed the majority of the resolve checks, and I've got Indomitable on the Rag. So I ended up only losing like a couple of stands here, and the unit survives. He actually failed a bunch of attack rolls and realized later, oh, I could have used Blessed. And I explained to him, look, what you're supposed to do with Blessed, and this is quite a good learning point for those players who are new. Blessed is an ability that lets you reroll all of your failed attack rolls, or but not both, or all of your failed defense rolls in one particular turn. And you must declare which one it's going on before you roll a dice. So if I'm in a combat and I'm going to attack and then be attacked, I've got to think carefully about whether I want to get the most out of my damage or the most out of my defense. And Blessed usually is better on defense. So, in a tournament situation, you could say to your opponent, look, I see that you didn't actually re-roll your attack rolls and you didn't say anything about Blessed. I'm assuming you're saving the Blessed ability for when you make your defense rolls. And in this particular case, I said to my opponent, look, you didn't declare it. So normally you can't re-roll the attack rolls there, but you will have them available when I attack you back with the initiates. After explaining that to him, I said, look, you obviously forgot. It's a casual game. I think it's pretty obvious here that you would have gone for Blessed on the attacks because it would have given you a very good chance of obliterating my unit because I'm saving on 1s and you've got Line Breaker. So why don't you go ahead and re-roll like the 7 missed hits or the absurd number of failed hits that you did end up failing. And, he went ahead and did that. He took advantage of that and rolled some more attacks. They still went poorly. He still missed a bunch of them. I passed some saves. The resolve checks were perfect. And I still ended up losing far fewer of these miniatures than I originally intended to, which really held the line. And I feel like not only did he get very unlucky here, I still feel like the better play would have been to go after the Steelforged. So over here what happens is that because there's now no Berserks in between the Steelforged and the Bow Chosen, and because the Steelforged are activating next, and they do have the Bow Chosen in their line of sight, I can go Flux Powered, +2 Clash, I charge in here, do 6 hits at Clash 5 for impacts, and then rip them up with 12 attacks on Clash 5, and this absolutely trashes the Bow Chosen. It just murders them. And this would not have been possible if the Berserks had been in the way and had attacked the Steelforged. So just another glamour photo of them there. You can see me just ripping into them. On the other side, the Ogres make their Inspire and they clash against the Hold Warriors. I managed to hold the line here, mostly because I'd built up 4 Elemental Potency tokens, and I could just automatically pass a bunch of them. Cleave 2 is dropping me to armor saves on 1s, so after the remaining hits went through and the resolve checks were taken, I'm reduced to just 3 wounds left on this one stand, and I'm broken. But importantly, I can now blow them up with all of my shooting and spells. Over here, because the Bow Chosen didn't activate in time, and you can see the situation where the Berserks have charged past into the Initiates on the top of the photo, the Steelforge have wiped out the Bow Chosen to the right. I can now gap it and just run the Hellbringer Drake with its 4 wounds remaining over to the 3-point objective and start scoring from here on out. And that's the beauty of this beast, is it's very fast. And you can see at the top right, he's just neglected to turn around with his trolls and be decisive with them. You know, if the trolls were currently in the middle of the fight with the Initiates or something like that, you can sort of see how this situation could be avoided. But this photo here sort of shows how far the game has come in terms of me getting a lead. Now it's going to take him a lot longer to deal with this flank, and I'm going to get a ton of points in the meantime. Over here, the Ballistae able to move around and shoot at the Ogres, and the Sorcerer making a roll into close combat with their spells. The Fireforged aiming and shooting into combat with the Ogres, absolutely trashing them. And then we have the Trolls finally turning around. They're reforming a little bit, making a charge into the side of the Steelforged. They will eventually get the better of the Steelforged. It's just going to take them a long time. Over here, the Ballistae reforming and just getting some shooting done, so that's there. And as you can see, the Ogres have been wiped out, so the Hold Warriors rally, and then they move around to score points from this objective. And the great thing is that I'm getting 3 points from each of the large side objectives, plus 2 for having multiple objectives, so that's 8. And I'm starting to scoop up a bunch of points from killing enemy regiments at this point, so the game is sort of really landsliding towards me, snowballing. We have the Initiates attacking back against the Berserks. I've got a bunch of them here, and the Rag as well, so removing one stand. Of course, this will make the Berserks angrier. They will now be able to get their bonus attacks. So coming into the next turn, I'm going to try and get the Initiates to attack first before they get wiped out, then the Steelforged, then everybody else, with the Fireforged going last, because all they need to do is just move on to the objective and camp it. Opponent goes first, Berserk's activating first and just trashing these Initiates with, of course, their additional attacks and their Inspired and their Linebreaker and everything. Steelforged reforming, and because obviously the Initiate's not getting to activate, so that's card skipped. Steelforge making a successful resolve check to get a combat reform going, and then whacking into the Trolls. They get 6 wounds, which is exactly the number of Trolls which will regenerate, so nothing accomplished there, and that basically just gives the Trolls more frontage to beat them up with. So that's what's happening here. And then over this side, the Raiders running into the Hold Warriors and successfully killing them, to be honest. The Raiders brought them down to like 1 wound left, thanks to their additional attack from being wounded. And then the heroic Shaman, with 1 wound to inflict onto the Warriors, does pull the clutch, whacking him with his little magic staff and destroying them, and that takes out the Steel Shaper as well. But on this left flank, I still have 1 scoring unit, which is the Fireforged. So the Shaman, the Sorcerer comes here and obliterates the Shaman. That entire flank is clear. Over the side, the Trolls absolutely massacring the Steelforged, and you can see in the background the Berserks have been victorious against the Initiates. I really just have this this Sorcerer here able to shoot into close combat, but it's still going to be a whole nother turn before he comes and takes over the objective and kills the Hellbringer. So this is going to net me like another 8 points once the Fireforge move on to that zone. So last couple of turns here before he concedes, we're just sort of playing it out. But you can sort of see here that I'm scoring on the left, I'm scoring on the right, and after he moves in with his units, he's got 2 units left. I've got 2 on my left-hand side, and I'm ahead by like 15 points at this stage. So if he moves off of the objectives to come after me, he'll stop scoring. I'll shoot at him long range with all my guns. It's not really going to work. So we played it out. The Berserks charge the Hellbringer Drake. They kill it quite easily, and the Trolls are just posing for a photograph here. And of course, I've got the Sorcerer who can't score, so he may as well go after the enemy units and spell them later in the game. But at this point, that's effectively where it ends. You can see the last of the Berserks chopping up the Hellbringer, and everything else just milling around aimlessly. So yeah, I think the Berserks got killed by the Hellbringer in close combat. Oh no, they got joined in close combat by the Trolls. And then if we look at this photograph here, at the end of turn 7, I had 51 points, he had 31, and you can sort of see that we're going to score like 3 points each for the rest of the game. So there's no way that he can mathematically catch up. So that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed this bat wrap. I'm looking forward to showing you guys more with Dweghom. I made a few mistakes this game, my first real outing with him. I played them at 1,000 points, but this is the first time taking a more significant list. I will get the Dragon Slayers onto the field, and we can see some 2,000 point lists. I am told that next month, when the balance patch comes out, that the Ardent Keraweg is finally getting a new spell. So he's in the collection. I've got some flame berserkers. So depending on how good he's going to be, I may start putting him in the 2,000 point lists. And of course, I will be playing some 100 Kingdoms quite regularly as well. So stick around for that. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you when we see you.